Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Now, our special guest today is Shannon Wilburn. Shannon is the CEO and co founder of Just Between Friends franchise system. Just Between Friends is a children's and maternity consignment sales event. Families consign their children's and maternity items twice a year. They make 65 to 70% on every item they sell. Shoppers save money on the items they purchase, so it's a win-win for everyone involved. She also
Yep.
has a little, what's that?
I said yes.
Yes, yes, we love win-wins, right? These are what we want. So, Shannon, thank you for making time for us today. We were so excited when you said yes to the invitation. So, let's have some fun. Let's have a conversation.
Yes, I'm excited. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. And that is such a purpose filled company that you created. Just Between Friends is turning 25 years old this year, right?
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
So tell us the origin story. How did it all get started?
Yeah. So, thank you. 25 years. It's crazy. So, I had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, back in 1997. And if I go back way far to when I was, 12 years old, my dad was CFO of an oil and gas company. He went, he started having symptoms, numbness in his hands and feet, and started going to the doctor to try and figure out like what is happening. And unfortunately, within a span of 6 weeks, he went from a cane to a walker to a wheelchair. And our family, who had just really everything we needed because he had this nice job at the age of 33 being CFO of this oil and gas company, he went on disability insurance, and our life changed very drastically. And with that came the financial impact. And we went from a custom home that had just been built around an atrium. I had my own bedroom and bathroom as a 12-year-old. My twin sister had her own bedroom and bathroom in a different part of the house. We had 2 brand new cars in the driveway. All of that went away. We moved to a rent house and went to 1 car. And my mom, who had been a stay-at-home mom and not finished college, went to work, and she became the sole breadwinner of our family. And my dad put my sister and I on a clothing budget. And he said, because CFO, he was like, this is how much money you have to spend. You can spend it all in January, or you can spend this much in January, this much in February, this much in March. But once this money is gone this year, it's gone. So this is when my dad taught us about budgeting and watching every dollar. And this was our kind of, I guess, path into understanding consignment, because we were teenage girls headed into junior high, and we of course wanted to look cute. And so this is when we discovered consignment, in Midland, Texas. And so my mom said, don't buy it unless you love it. That was kind of her mantra. And so I went through junior high and high school shopping consignment. When I went to college, that's how I shopped. Then I got married, started having children. That's how I shopped, because that's what I knew. That's how I knew how to stretch a dollar. I had a degree in elementary education when I started having children, but my husband and I thought it would be nice if I could stay home with them. It just seemed more affordable than getting childcare for 2 children. Why can't I be the caretaker of my 2 children? And so we were trying to make that work. But of course, I needed to try to help supplement the family income. And so I was looking for ways to do that, like we all do, right? What can I do from home? And back in the late 90s, there's a multitude of options now, thank you, Lord. But there were not lots of options back then. And so my mom is actually the person who saw something like this in the Fort Worth, Texas area, just between friends. And she said, Shannon, there's this event. It's consignment, it's pop up. Families bring their gently used items, they tag them at home. They bring them to an event. It's a short pop-up event. That's really all she knew. She had not gone to the event. And so she told me about it. She said, you need to start something like this in Tulsa. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. And so I approached a friend of mine, Devin Tackett, who is my co-founder, and said, what do you think about this idea? We talked about it. We came up with the name Just Between Friends. She said, can I be your business partner? I was like, absolutely. And that's how it started. We started in Tulsa. We convinced 17 of our friends to bring us their gently used children's and maternity item and children's, and really just clothes at that point. It turned over to be toys and baby equipment later. We did that in my living room, sold $2,000 worth of merchandise. And Devin made $150 and I made $150, and our 17 consigners all made money, and our shoppers saved 50 to 90% off retail. And so everybody was happy. And they said, when are you doing this next? And we're like, are we doing this next? Okay, I guess we're doing this next. So we started in Tulsa. Then about 6 years later, we started franchising the business. And I'm skipping a lot, but it is, we started franchising. And this year is our 25th year, just like you said. And I think system-wide sales this year, I think we're going to hit my BHAG of 40 million in system-wide sales. And there's a lot of fun stuff that happens with system-wide sales of 40 million, lots of giving back that happens locally and over 150 locations nationwide. I'm super proud of our franchise owners and their grit through COVID. When events and gathering were dirty words, and we are here, we survived that with the Lord's grace. And he has just put us on a path to helping more people now that inflation is rampant. Gas prices are still very high, and we are sitting in this place of significance. We're sitting in this place to be able to help so many families. And what's really cool is in the last 2 years, I've had 2 grandkids, and my son and my daughter, who were 1 and 2 at the time when we started Just Between Friends, now get to participate in the Oklahoma City sale and in the New Hampshire sale. And I'm going to cry. I don't know why, but isn't that funny? But it's really fun to be able to start something that helped you as a mom, and that helps thousands of moms and has helped thousands of moms for the last 25 years. And then your own kids gets to help your own kids. And I think that's just really cool. So that's my story.
I like your story. And it is an emotional thing when you can look back over 25 years and know that you have impacted children and families. I was a single mama, and I was raised very poor as a missionary's daughter, and thrift stores was about all that was available back then. There weren't consignment shops.
Right.
Now consignment shops are sexy
Yeah.
and they're cool, and even very rich people are going to consignment shops, even if it's just to consign your clothes.
Yeah.
But back, many years ago, it was a survival technique.
Yeah.
And then we discovered it was cool. You can find all kinds of wonderful things. And when you have babies, it's important to keep on that path. They keep growing. Somehow they just keep growing in their needs. So it is emotional. Anytime we look backwards and see the ripple effect, a single idea planted in your head has helped so many families across the country. Before I get into what's next, I want to stop here and you address some of this charitableness. So not only is the business itself making a difference, but many of your franchisees are involved in other charitable endeavors. Is that correct?
That is, we actually, not from the beginning, because honestly, we didn't know any better, but because our concept involves items, and when our families are bringing the items to us, oftentimes the families don't want the items back if they don't sell. And so we were like, okay, it presented a business challenge. What do we do with these items if they don't sell? So the unsold items, and how can they go on and have a life after they're at our events? And so we started partnering probably in our third year in the Tulsa sale with a local nonprofit. And the local nonprofit would come after the event is over, and we communicated with our families that were participating. Hey, if you would like to donate your items at the end of the event, the ones that don't sell, then we have a great charity partner. And we would tell about our charity partner. And that went on to be just great relationship. I ended up being on the board of that charity, this local charity here in town called Emergency Infant Services, for several years. And we donated in-kind donations, cash donations, diapers, formula. I mean, you name it. And then other charities here locally wanted to be involved. Just, hey, can we have your books? Hey, can we have your maternity clothes? Hey, can we, whatever the need was. So I think at one point the Tulsa sale was partnering with 5 or 6 local charities. And so when we started franchising, we made it part of the concept. It is, you have consigners, you have shoppers, and you have a charity partner. Those are the three facets of what it takes to have a Just Between Friends. And we were not doing a lot of, hey, tell us about your charity partners, really, until 2015 or 2016. I think there was this aha moment within our corporate team of, we need to be telling these stories. We need to be listening to our franchise owners, because it's so important when you I think it felt a little bit like, well, we have all this good going on at the franchisee level. Like this franchisee is doing this, and oh my gosh, the fires in California raged through California, and our North Bay franchise owner stepped up to the plate and did this. And, we're like, we need to be telling these stories, because number one, they're inspiring.
Yes.
They inspire. When you hear, I think this is why lots of, when COVID was going on, good news movement went on, because we hear so much negativity that people want to hear good news.
Yeah.
And but sometimes when it's you that's doing the good thing, that's why I'm glad you're doing this podcast. Because when it's you who's doing the good news, it feels self-indulgent to tell, I'm doing something good. And so we're like, we want our franchise owners to tell us what they're doing good. So we started a community impact award that we do every year, and it is at the exact same level with our Franchise of the Year award. So it's our top award is Franchise of the Year and Community Impact Award, same level. And it comes with the same prize money, or same what they get, except half of the prize money for the Community Impact Award goes to a charity partner. And so we get all these good stories from our franchise owners of what they're doing at the local level to give back. And giving in-kind donations is just one piece of it, right? My daughter and I visited the New Hampshire sale because she lives in Boston just a month ago, and got awesome, great things. Well, they had a giving tree. So in the middle of their sale, they have this tree, and there's ornaments, paper tags on and it said, cozy coop, or, walker, like a walker for a child, or a swing, a swing. And you could buy those things for another child in need, a
Aw.
foster child, or, someone, or one said $50, you could donate $50. So you could take the tag when you're checking out, and that would go towards their charity partner and the items that their charity needed for the families that they were helping. And so, I mean, that's just one example. And I share this anytime I get to talk about giving back. So thank you for asking this question. But we started in 2015 or 2016 giving this.
I love that book.
We started giving this book away at training with our franchise owners, because it feels so, it's called The Go Giver.
Bob Berg.
Just feels so important to kind of teach about giving back, because I think that unless you were taught to give back, and my dad he's the one who taught specifically me about giving money, tithing to the church. But I think my mom and dad both taught that giving back should be a part of who you are. And so unless you have someone teaching that, it's not always intrinsic in you. Tracy, I know we were talking earlier, it is
exactly going through my mind, exactly what you just said.
Can be intrinsic,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not always. So I credit my parents for teaching that. And so if I want my franchise owners to do this, I can't just assume that they know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Training has to happen. And so that's part of what we do.
Right. It's so interesting that you just said the word intrinsic, because I was actually going to point out that, in the past several years, like maybe within the past, 5 to 10 years, I don't even think it went as far back as 10 years, there has been this whole movement towards social corporate responsibility, which is it's more about adopting a project. However, as you're talking, I'm getting this feeling that your business is built with the social corporate responsibility at the core, right? Your business is built from the heart, and the heart of Just Between Friends is that giving back, being in service, helping families in need, helping families who maybe can't afford retail, helping families declutter, just whatever it is. It's like, when you talk about a win-win-win, this is beyond. This is like a win-win-win-win from every direction.
Right.
And I love that, because intrinsic is a beautiful word in this particular scenario.
Well, and I want to say that when I started Just Between Friends, when Devin and I started it wasn't intrinsic. Like I didn't start it to say, oh, I want to give back.
Right.
I was like, I need to make some money and I need to help my own kids, but the Lord turned it into something that could do both.
Right.
And yes, it took some strategy to do that. And it took some people to help guide that. It took some people asking some questions. Hey, what are you doing with the unsold items? Oh, what are we doing with the unsold items? Yeah. And I think the Lord puts people in your life and in your business who can ask you the hard questions to help you go the right direction. And my sister and I were talking. So we are, funny enough, we are in the middle of a transaction with Just Between Friends. We are selling Just Between Friends, and I'm very excited about it. We haven't closed yet, so anything can happen. I really feel wonderful about the buyer. I'm very excited. I feel like it's going to go off without a hitch. And that should happen very soon. And our franchise owners all know about it. Our staff knows about it. We haven't just done PR about it yet, because we haven't closed, but it has me talking to friends and family about what's next,
Mm-hmm.
and there are, I'm 52 years old. And so there's a lot of people in my circle who are kind of in that same space
Mhm.
of, okay, I'm an empty nester now. What am I doing? And this kind of theme has it's I went to lunch this week with someone who's in the same spot, and I was in Texas last week with two people who are in this same spot, and they might not be selling a company after doing something for 25 years, but their last child just went to college and they've been a stay-at-home mom. And this particular person used the words rudderless. It's absolutely devastating and rudderless. And she used the term like she feels like she's on a lake in a boat. She can't see land and doesn't have an oar, even if she did see land, but I really feel like all of us of a certain age, we have done things in our life. We have sowed seeds. We have, and it really is this open field. It's this open field in front of us where we get to look and we get to see, okay, where can we go from success to significance?
Yes.
What do we get to do in this second half, this next story, or what do we get to do now? And I probably need to reread The Go-Giver. And David Barr, y'all know David Barr. I told him last week at a conference I was at that I was going through a transaction and exiting, and I was looking for something that would provide purpose. And he told me to read the book Halftime. Have y'all read this?
No, but someone else recommended it to me.
Okay.
This is the second.
So of course I couldn't wait. He said, I'm going to send it to you, but I couldn't wait. I got it on Audible. And so I'm about halfway through it, and it has been really, really good for me to listen to. And I know, Tracy, we were talking earlier.
Your book too, Tracy, on the same thing.
Right. Faith, Hope, and Options Amid Career Transitioners Bible.
I'm gonna have to order it.
Yeah, on Amazon, interspersing the wisdom of the Bible. But to your point, I have seen over the past 7 years, so many people in the middle of their careers transitioning. And the truth of the matter is, at this particular point in life, most people, it's not that they don't want the money, and it's not that they're not going to be paid, but they are looking for more purpose. It's almost one step past purpose. They're looking for their calling. Like, why am I here on earth? What was I meant to do? And obviously, it's like you've had two lives, because you created Just Between Friends, where it was such an impactful, meaningful, community-oriented business that truly just impacted so many.
Yeah.
And now this next chapter is going to be of equal greatness, if not even the next step to that, if you can imagine. So it's a very exciting time.
Well, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I like this idea of going from success, a very successful co-founder, CEO, entrepreneur, letting go of a baby that has grown up to be a very beautiful, significant business, right? To success to significance. So for you, it sounds like there's a drawing to something more. How does one go about asking self the right questions of what that is? I mean, you're having to let go and you don't know what the next thing is. That's a scary abyss, right? Of letting go of this and going to it requires a certain amount of faith, a certain amount of trust while we're in that rudderless place that your friend was talking about. with fog around us and we're in a boat. It requires faith that we are going somewhere.
I went, Rebecca, I will tell you, I wish we were a year down the road and I had all the answers, or 2 years down the road, or 3 years down the
We
road.
may have to have you back.
Yeah, I love, first off, I love that the buyer is going to keep me around for a little while. So I will have a small part-time job still with JBF for a little while. And so I will have a few things left to do with just Between Friends for a little while. And so that'll be fun. And I also love the buyer. And I know that they will take JBF to just amazing heights and do things that I could have never dreamed of doing, that makes me even more excited. I mean, I'm truly excited and just can't wait for the next chapter of the company that the Lord allowed me to manage for 25 years and start. But when it comes to what's next for me, I don't know. And I'm not scared about it, but I am praying a lot and searching, and I'm calling it the waiting period. And I talked to Steve White. Y'all know Steve White with PuroClean.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the CEO of PuroClean, and he has a couple of investors in the brand. I guess they're owners of the brand. And he told me, I can't remember what his thing was before, but when he retired from what he did before PuroClean, so 10 years ago or whatever, he said, I didn't really realize how burned out I was. And I don't feel burned out because I have a president right now that she does the down and in stuff, and I'm doing the up and out stuff, which is fun for me. And but he said, Shannon, I didn't really realize how burned out I was. And he said, I didn't do anything for 3 years. He said, I didn't know that I was going to do anything else. And he said, someone came knocking, and I told him no. And they came knocking again, and I was like, okay, I'll look at it, and so I'm sitting in this place of what's next, and whatever the Lord has in store for me, I'm sure it will show itself in when it's supposed to be in front of me, and I do get antsy though. Honestly, if I'm being really transparent, it's like, okay, yeah, but I'm ready now. Like, show me. Show me. Yeah, chop chop. Because I do like to have the answers at the ready. It's funny, the Lord gave me this vision probably 2 years ago. Y'all, I know, Rebecca, you know this, that my husband went through COVID and almost died, was intubated a couple of times, and he flatlined and was in the hospital for 48 days and survived, and he's a miracle. But I think that has also been a part of my story. All I wanted to do after he came home from the hospital and was going through physical therapy and rehab and learning to walk again was spend time with him. And it's like, I almost lost him. I was almost sitting in this house by myself, a widow at 51, and I'm like, I don't take for granted the fact that he's now here to see 2 grandkids, and he is. And so I think that also plays into it. I had a major life experience happen in the last 2 years of that will totally knock some sense into you. You're like, okay, why was I put here on this earth, and where can I add significance and give back, and where do I spend my 24 hours a day in the best place possible? Is it with my family? Is it giving back to other entrepreneurs?
Mhm.
Is it helping those in need? Is it with my church family? I think we all have to go in, and I don't have the answer. So I wish I had the answers and was the expert in this. So go read the book Halftime. There's my and go read Tracy's book. And but it's not many people get to sit in this space and get to even ask these questions. So I know that um I don't take that for granted for sure. Like the Lord has just has walked me, has placed me here. He's gone before me. He's come behind me and showed me where to place my feet at every turn. And I know he's going to continue to do that. It's just I have to trust and wait. And I'm not very good at waiting sometimes.
Me either. It's interesting as you talk, because like you said, many when we hit that place in our lives, whether it's selling our businesses or doing a career transition and saying, I've been an IT professional for years, I want to do something different, but I don't know what it is. And we go in search of what talents did God give me, and how am I supposed to use them to feel like my life is significant and what I'm doing is significant. And I think we do get to that place of pondering, or I hope all of us get to that place of pondering, and we're not just in survival, doing day to day what needs to be done to put, a roof over our heads, so to
Right.
speak. But what's interesting about your story to me, and the story you told about Steve White at Puriclean, is both of you are comfortable sitting without knowing what the next thing is. There's a place of being comfortable there to have this self-discovery, to trust in a Lord that has your future in his hands, right? And that you will be given the next step and the next step and the next step. You may not be given the plan, right?
Right.
Or the blueprint or whatever, but you will be given the next step in the quietness, in the asking the questions, in thoughtful prayer, and being okay with being out there rudderless for a period of time, knowing that the clouds are going to lift and you'll be given that next step. I don't know if I have that level of trust and faith. I'm a linear person. I want to know what's next, what's next, what's next. I want to know the big picture before I even get into the details. And both you and Steve were able to sit with it, right? And that's hard when you're an achiever, when you're a driver, when you're driven like you are. What is it about you that allows you to do that? Or what advice would you have for others that need to know this is my next thing to hang my hat on before they even let go over here?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you think that I'm okay with it, because I think internally
You
internally
look fabulous, by the way.
I think internally there's more turmoil that just doesn't come out outwardly. And I think a minute ago I was about to share with you a vision that the Lord gave me, because he knew I needed to have this vision. It was after Mitch came home from the hospital. He gave me a vision of me standing in front of a sidewalk, and on that sidewalk, I was looking down at my feet, and all of a sudden a little chalk square was there. And I knew I was supposed to put my foot in that chalk square. And then when I put my foot in that chalk square, there were two other squares that were drawn like a hopscotch.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to put my 2 feet right there. And then another square showed up. And it was like the Lord said, when you trust me, when you place your feet where I tell you to place your feet, I'm going to give you the next step. And I needed that specifically at that time, because I'm like, I don't know the big picture is. I don't know how long I'm going to live. I don't know, I don't know what Mitch's health journey is going to be. And am I supposed to quit my job and follow Mitch around? No, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to do, but I feel like it 100% is my faith that allows me to have maybe more peace than the next person. But I don't want to set myself up that I have all of this peace and I have all of this faith. And because I really am, I do struggle at times with, I'm supposed to be a CEO. I've always been a CEO. I've always been a business owner. I've always had a paycheck. I think, and that's probably something that lots of your listeners struggle with, is we measure ourselves by our paycheck.
Yep.
And I don't want to be that person, but I probably am. If I'm being honest, I like that I have a title, and I'm about to not have a title. And well, I will have a title. Brand ambassador will be my title. And I love that I get a title, if I'm being honest. So I don't know that I have it figured out, Rebecca. But I know there's so many people who have gone this road, and I just have to tap into their brilliance, which is, I'm going to go listen to the podcast you told me about, Todd.
Those of you that haven't listened, by the way, we're talking about Todd Hopkins, the founder and CEO of Pride Staff, and his
Office Pride.
Oh, right? Excuse me.
Yeah.
With my brain. Office Pride. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
And him passing the torch to the next CEO. And if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's a very moving thing. Tracy, I know you have 1,000 questions, but I want to tell a personal story to validate what Shannon is saying. About 10 years ago, after 25 years as a behavioral scientist and a business owner, a dramatic thing happened in my life. I spent 2 years crying about it. I lost everything, my home, my business. And most importantly, I lost my identity, because I only knew myself as a business owner and as a behavioral scientist. I was respected, I was appreciated, and all of a sudden, everything was gone, including my reputation. I cried for 2 years, and I reached out to Betsy from my church, and she acted as my mentor. She spent time with me every week, and she pointed out something that changed my life. She said, Rebecca, you made your title, you made your identity an idol, right? And I'm like, what's she talking about? And when she first started saying my identity became my idol, I'm like, how's that? I mean, we all have an identity. It took her several weeks of conversation to start to say, now that this stripped away, you're lost, right? And you're feeling incredible pain. It's like you think you have no significance. You think you're a nobody at this point without a company and without a title, without blah, blah, blah. And she said, who you should be worshiping is God. You are worshiping your title and your success. And it changed who I became over the next few years. And I think it's something that we all deal with when we're in transition. Tracy, you probably can talk to this, till the cows.
Hours and hours and hours, right?
Because whether it's our title, whether it's our success, whether it's the zip code we live in, the car we drive, we make our identity our idol rather than who we should be worshiping and listening to. So you know this. I didn't know this years back until someone called me on my poo-poo. And I had to face my ugliness at that point. Tracy, we got 4 minutes and you're just
Oh,
chomping at the bit. So I want to make sure I turn the,
well, according to what the example that you just gave, a really close friend of mine said to me, all those years that I was chasing a man when I should have been chasing God, right? Which is, a very similar example, right? Except this one is a relationship. Well, they're both relationships.
yeah, good point.
Yeah, and I want to address the hopscotch imagery, Shannon, that you mentioned. And to me, that was the visual for if you trust me and take the first step or two, I will create the next steps, right?
Yeah.
We always say you take the first step, God opens the door, God opens a window, God gives you the next steps. The other thing that I have been chomping at the bit.
I could feel it. I know you so well.
Totally. So the waiting period. I would love to address this. What I have found in so many years of working with mid-career transitioners is that, as you said, the waiting period, I would like to relabel that and call it your information gathering phase, because that's simply what you're in. You're in an information gathering phase. And what we don't do during this time is we don't give ourselves the permission to explore, to be in this stage. And you were right when you said most people don't have the opportunity to be in that stage. But once we find ourselves, for you and all your friends that you were mentioning, once we find ourselves being in that stage, we need to give ourselves permission to allow ourselves to be there and explore all that we can, because it really is, like you said, a privilege to be in that space. And that alone, the permission alone, is taking the first step.
I love it. I feel like this has been a good counseling session for me. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. And it is in the rudderlessness phase that we find out who we really are.
Yeah.
And that God knows that he can trust us with even more.
Yes.
So those are that's what I have to add. And I would love to know where people can find you and reach out to you.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, of course, just Shannon Wilburn on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, or Shannon at jbfsale.com.
Nice.
Beautiful. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. Shannon, any final words? Because this has been power packed to me, and I hope others that are going through this transition identity thing, going to another place in their life, focus on how can I move from success to significance. Any final words from you, Shannon, that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I think I don't really have any, I guess just, I think if you don't have some type of way to add significance in your franchise system, if you don't have that, begin to dream about that, because I think it can grow your brand in ways that you don't even know. It can grow the people that are attracted to your brand, and from a customer perspective as well as a franchisee perspective. And so anyway, think about that.
Yeah, and it's significant also in terms of the culture that we create and the types of people we attract, which is part of the reason for this series, is to open our eyes to business can also make a difference. It's not just what we take to the bank,
Right.
but we're investing in our communities. Again, Shannon, thank you for taking time. We really appreciate you sharing your heart, your story. And I believe this is going to inspire many as they listen in. And
Thank you for having me.
And to the rest of you listening in to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. We'll see you next week for another episode.